Since there's something in the wind that feels like tragedies attend, and though I'd like to stand by him, can't shake this feeling that I have.
Hello!
Hello.
This is Lucian Black.
This is Luna Nova Ravenstar.
Hello. I am the head witch of Tampa.
I am the head witch of Newport Richey and surrounding areas.
Yes. And we're just doing a little fun festive thing, little history of, just Christmas and what it's become and what it is currently. Today, a fierce debate rages on exactly why December 25th was the chosen date for Christmas. Many Christians like to argue that Jesus was literally born on December 25th, having been conceived on March 25th. Coincidentally, March 25th is the day they think Jesus died. An old tradition asserted by Christians was generally saints died on the date that they were born, the same date. December 25th was home to celebrations honoring the deities Mithra and Sol Invictus, which roughly means the unconquered sun, who were both popular when Christmas was established. I think that the date December 25th was most likely something to do with the proximity to the winter solstice, Saturnalia, and the Kalends, but we'll never know for sure. Today, Today, the word Yule is generally used as a synonym.
I want some cinnamon.
That would be tasty. Sorry. Okay. Today, the word Yule is generally used as a synonym for Christmas as a term to mark the winter solstice among pagan witches. The original Germanic Yule was probably more than just a day, most likely to commemorate an extended season from the middle of November through the middle of January. The focus of the first Yule celebration, or Christmas, was local feasting, drinking, especially the consumption of pork, which was considered to be a treat and a luxury. In addition to food and drinks, Yule celebrations included candles, bonfires, ghost stories, and evergreen branches, which we will be including tonight.
For a little bit of background, Yule history in the winter solstice goes back even further and predates written records. Winter solstice in Saturnalia was first celebrated by 300 BCE and lasted in different forms in many places until the year 500 CE.
I didn't fart.
Saturnalia was a time for heavy drinking and for subverting the social order. Slaves were waited on by their masters, and cross-dressing was common. People decorated with candles and evergreen branches exchanged gifts and celebrated the return of light. Much like our modern-day Christmas, Saturnalia was a day free from work and school. Similar to Saturnalia, and occurring just a week or so later, the Roman celebration of January Kalends, which has also influenced our modern-day Yule celebrations. All Kalends, the first day of each calendar month, were celebrated by the Romans, but the January celebrations were especially festive. Like Saturnalia, it was a time to decorate with evergreen branches and exchange gifts. If this sounds similar to the modern-day celebrations of Christmas, that is not a coincidence. Christians borrowed many of the traditions associated with Saturnalia and Kalends.
When the Roman Empire converted the religion established by Jesus and Paul the Apostle, the candles, gifts, and evergreen branches all became a part of Christmas. It would be a few more centuries before the Christmas tree appeared. Yule celebrations in Germany and Scandinavia, or called Norse people, most likely paved the way for similar celebrations of Christmas with their traditions inserted into the holiday. Yule, originally Yule in ancient Norse, is a timeless midwinter tradition, nearly as old as the Roman Saturnalia. Depending on the source, Yule was either a 2-month celebration, stretching from the middle of November to the middle of January every year, or a 12-day celebration beginning on the winter solstice and lasting until the early January, and may even be a 3-day feast beginning on the eve of the winter solstice and lasting until the last day until after the solstice.
Now, linguists aren't exactly sure what the word Yule originally signified. It has been linked to an Anglo-Saxon word, heel, which means wheel, and could be referenced to the sun, which was often depicted as a wheel. It might also come from the root word for jolly. After the Christianization of Europe and Great Britain, the word Yule became a synonym for Christmas. Specific references to Yule in ancient pre-Christian literature are scarce. Catholic Church leaders complained about revelry from Northern European pagans with their traditions. The great English historian Bede, 672 to 735, wrote about a holiday he called Modern Cent, which translates as Mother's Night in modern English.
According to Bede's, Mother's Night was celebrated December 25th by Anglo-Saxon pagans, which by extension Great Britain, including nighttime rituals. Modern scholars believe that Mother's Night was likely celebrated by the mother goddess or goddesses. In some ways, ancient Yule ceremonies looked like much modern day celebrations. There was feasting, drinking, singing, and storytelling. Familiar holiday customs like Yule, the Yule log, rituals, supernatural experiences, or ghost stories. But there were also animal sacrifices, and most likely were adorned to statues of gods or goddesses and idols with the blood of the sacrificed pigs, horses, or cows.
As Christianity spread throughout Europe, then after the collapse of the Roman Empire, Christmas spread with it. During the medieval period, many old deities, fairies, and spirits were transformed into seasonal gift givers, while the Saturnalia and Yule customs of excessive eating and drinking remained strong. One of the most popular and enduring customs of the medieval Christmas was the Lord of Misrule, a figure who presided over holiday merriment and subversion in royal courts throughout Europe. Holidays were even a bigger thousand of years ago among European royalty, starting on All Hallows Eve, October 31st, Samhain, and lasting through February 2nd, Candlemas or Imbolc. The Lord of Misrule would stage card games, masquerades, and other forms of entertainment, much to the delight of those with the money and resources to indulge in such revelries.
Away from the castles and keeps, the common folk would celebrate the Lord of Misrule and Christmas too, with less extravagance and for much shorter periods of time. Violence often erupted while choosing the Lord of Misrule, leading to many castles and villages abandoning the tradition, though it would live on in other forms. The custom of wassailing was a continuation of Saturnalia, which was created by the Romans and subverted social order. Traditionally, wassail, the poor and less fortunate would visit homes of the rich to ask for food and strong drink, threatening violence or vandalism if demands were not met. Doesn't sound like a pleasant Christmas guest to me. Well, the wealthy would invite the wassailers into their home and serve them, which was something that happened only during Christmas time.
Now in the 17th century, Puritan preachers labeled the wassail as violent and brutish. To be honest, they weren't wrong. As American and British middle classes began to grow in size and strength, the violence and vandalism directed at them by wassailers were too much, and responded by locking their doors and ignoring much of the holiday.
I don't blame them.
Me either. Now, Yule Though Yule as a pagan holiday was dormant for several centuries, it returned by the middle of the 20th century. When the first book about witchcraft traditions was published in 1954, Gerald Gardner's Witchcraft Today, it included part of a ritual commemorating the winter solstice and has been called the holiday Yule. Yule is one of the most 8 Sabbats on the wheel of the year, as referred to by most witches. Christmas to the winter solstice has turned into the primary winter celebration, which is the rebirth and rejoice of the sun that returns during the winter solstice.
For many witch groups, Yule is a time of jubilation and is celebrated with gift exchanges, toasts for good health, and cheer. Magically, Yule is a powerful time for new beginnings and for ridding oneself of unwanted habits. Christmas wasn't originally celebrated by Christians. Only 2 of the 4 Gospels in the Bible ever mentioned the birth of Jesus. Those 2 Gospels, Matthew and Luke, don't even tell the same story. In Luke's Jesus, he is a God for the common people and is attended to by the shepherds. In Matthew's Jesus is far more a royal ruler, and it is in his story that the 3 wise men first show up, though the writer Matthew never specifies how many wise men they exactly are.
Now, the first Christian celebrations to possibly commemorate the birth of Jesus took place at least 200 years after the death of Jesus.
Wow.
That holiday, Epiphany, which means showing forth, was sometimes used to commemorate Jesus' baptism and other times his birth. Today, Epiphany refers to the 3 wise men visiting Jesus on January 6th, but that was not originally the case. Christmas, as a celebration of Jesus' birthday, wasn't celebrated until at least the year 336 CE. Christmas is December 25th, had been adopted by most Christians in the Roman Empire, and has been celebrated ever since. Lacking any December traditions of their own, Christians used the trappings of Saturnalia for Christmas, which never really went away during the time, but its importance began to be downplayed. Christmas remained a major holiday in Europe, but it would take a combination of several different factors to gain interest in the holiday again in the Americas and Great Britain. What shaped Christmas was a poem, first released anonymously in 1823 by Clement Moore. A visit from St. Nicholas, more commonly known as the Night Before Christmas, helped transform Christmas from a holiday of drunks into a child's holiday. Santa Claus has existed long before Moore's poem, but his words turned Santa Claus into an American obsession. Moore's description of Santa Claus was so popular that his version was eventually imported from American traditions and became the standard in much of Europe.
Over in Great Britain, Queen Victoria and German Prince Albert wed in 1840, which paved the way for Christmas in the British Isles. When Albert married Victoria, he brought his German traditions and his love of Christmas, including the Christmas tree, which spread rapidly after its adoption. Due to the popularity of the royal family, the Christmas tree soon showed up on the shores of America. That's how we got them. Charles
somewhere.
I mean, I'm grateful for it. I like my little tree.
I like your little tree too.
Thank you. I hope they do too.
I hope so too. You better.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into this thing. Charles Dickens published The Christmas Carol in 1843, which invented or created the modern day Christmas. Dickens' story showcased a new sort of Christmas. There was still eating and drinking, but no one wanted it with sailors or violent drunks to spoil the proceedings. He focused his celebrations on family surrounded at the dinner table, on goodwill and charity. Dickens ghost of Christmas past, present, and yet to come became a familiar harborings of that holiday season. Ebenezer Scrooge is one of the most well-known characters in literary history.
Oh yes. Moores, Dickens, Victoria, and Albert helped pave the way for the Christmas Renaissance. And as the 19th century progressed, the popularity of Christmas only grew. Holiday gifts were marketing towards a growing middle class, and the holiday became more and more about giving, especially to the children. By the end of this 19th century, most of the ideas and customs we associated today with Christmas had been established. Trees, gifts, stockings, Christmas dinners, and the holiday as a nationwide observed in Europe, the Americas, by Australia too. Relating to Dickens, Yuletide celebrates revolve around the idea of holiday past, present, and yet to come. Many of us decorate with heirlooms passed down from over the generations. When family members have passed Yuletide, bring the traditions they inspired back. The spirit of past, present, and yet to come are kinds of energies found in most homes at Yule.
So why not invite them? St. Nicholas, Sinterklaas, and Santa Claus. Mythology surrounding the figure Santa Claus is a complex and comes from a variety of sources. Most important origin of St. Nicholas, an alleged Catholic saint from the Greek city Myra, now located in present-day Turkey. Nicholas is thought to have lived in the 3rd and 4th century, but there isn't much evidence to attesting to his existence. St. Nicholas's Day was created by the Catholic Church December 6th in 1969. In medieval England, it was said that boys would act as bishops and priests in the Catholic Church. I'm sorry, my cat's blowing it up right now. On the feast of St. Nicholas, the tales about him stressed kindness, generosity, and the ability to achieve miracles. According to the popular legend at the time, none other than Nicholas himself began the tradition when he threw 3 bags of gold coins in the stockings of a poor family. Nicholas's act of generosity gave the family money for wedding dowries, allowing the 3 girls that lived there to marry and escape poverty. This story of St. Nicholas didn't begin circulating until the centuries after his death, but there's no denying the popularity of the holiday stockings. Perhaps in colder climates, many people would have routinely been hanging their stockings by drying them at the fireplace. If that was Nicholas's point of entry, it's pretty easy math.
1 plus 1, people.
Yeah. He died December 6th from old age rather than a bloody end like most saints before him, and was the most popular saint during the Middle Ages in all of Europe. In 12th century France, Christmas celebrations involved children going door to door and demanding gifts from neighbors, if not threatening people with vandalism and violence. Not fun. A group of French nuns began distributing gifts anonymously to children on Nicholas's feast day, which is December 6th. Oh, he must be full. You had some of the feast.
Yeah, a pound and a half to read them. Damn right, it was good.
French holiday celebrations calmed down considerably. However, new expectations of receiving gifts directly from St. Nicholas had been created.
Now, the custom of St. Nicholas as a gift giver then spread from France throughout much of Europe. Upon entering the Netherlands, stories of St. Nicholas at Yuletide became more fanciful. He began riding a magical horse and entering houses through rooftop chimneys. His physical appearance began to change as well. Instead of resembling a Greek saint with a short brown beard, he sprouted a magnificent white beard and stood tall, thin, and regal. These changes were a result of St. Nicholas's story blending with myths of the Norse god Odin. 1823, by Clement Moore, A Visit from St. Nicholas, more commonly known as The Night Before Christmas, became the standard by which all other versions of Santa would be judged. He is a powerful magician in Moore's poem, able to fly up to chimneys simply by laying his finger on the side of his nose. The Christkind. In Germany, Christkind was created by Protestant Christian reformer Martin Luther, 1483 to 1546. The Christkind began as an alternative to the Catholic St. Nicholas. Christkind, translated in German, is Christ child. Luther envisioned this holiday gift giver as a toddler Jesus. The figure was often depicted as having blonde hair and later on evolved into an angelic young woman with wings on her back in her teens in the following centuries. Today, Christkind is just likely to be portrayed by an adult as a teenager and often resembles a fairy or a cartoon princess in addition to an angel.
Ooh.
Christkind is represented differently and varies from place to place. The Christkind became so popular in parts of Germany that she even replaced St. Nicholas in some Catholic areas. She is also responsible for one of Santa Claus's most popular nicknames, Kris Kringle.
Oh, that's where he gets it
That's
from.
where he got it. Today, Christkind is celebrated in Germany, Australia, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic, and among the Pennsylvania Dutch in the U.S. and Canada. And much of the heavily Catholic Latin American communities and some of Europe still celebrate the baby Jesus and is more popular than Santa Claus.
It's true. All right, everybody. Now it's time to welcome our sister, the holiday witch from Italy, La Befana. Traditionally, Befana is depicted as a pleasant old woman riding a broom and is said to be a New Year's spirit. As a broom-riding witch, she is said to sweep the entrances of the homes she visits and whisks away any bad energies from those homes from the previous year, preparing the household for a happy and positive new year. It is said that she presented the baby Jesus with gifts, and in return, he blessed her as the symbolic mother of Italian children. All right, now it's time to talk about the Yule goat.
Yule goat.
Try it again.
Skins of goats, people.
Yes, that one. Sorry.
Freaky Sunday.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, basically, almost. We're trying. And so, skins of goats. So, originally man dressed in a goat skin, resembling a goat, the Yule goat often looks like Santa Claus, complete with red and white suit. In 1927, Finnish broadcasters shared stories of the Joulupukki. In the Yule goat's name in Finnish, Finland's Mount Ear was said to be the home of the Yule goat and is as traditional to the Finns as Santa living on the North Pole. The Yule, the Yule goat could very well have been inspired by the ancient pagan deity chariot god Thor, who was known to be driven by two goats, Tangnisbyr and also Tangnusdyr, which roughly translates to toothcracker and tooth gasher. And it is possible the Joulupukki is at least their cousin. In postcards, the Yule goat can be seen walking beside St. Nicholas and sometimes pulling his sleigh.
The Krampus.
Bum bum bum.
Often called the Christmas devil, the Krampus is a lecherous and frightening character, and he really does scare children.
It's true.
The name Krampus comes from the German word Krampen, which translates to claw.
I know.
Many people believe that the Krampus is a figure that dates back to pagan antiquity and that he is the son of the Norse goddess Hel, who rules over the dead. He might be a figure inspired by medieval mummery, which was also an ancient pagan tradition, or a fear of demons. Though the Krampus calls Austria and Croatia home, he has become a worldwide holiday phenomenon in the new millennium. Today, the Krampus serves two roles at Yule. He's around to watch over children who misbehave, but for adults, he's the life of the party. He should be invoked when you want to shake up your holiday celebrations and embrace the naughtier side of life. Hello. The Krampus is known for spanking bad kids with a switch, tying them in chains, and when he comes across someone particularly naughty, he throws them in a basket on his back and whisks them away to hell.
Oh, that's what happens to those children.
Bye-bye. Vintage postcards often depict him as a dapper-looking demon with an especially long tongue. And as a guy who has a way with the ladies.
Ooh.
He can be seen in postcards, giving back to hardworking mothers, and returning the lustful stares.
Ooh.
In such situations, he embodies the repressed sexual longing of the entire Christmas season.
Mommy might be caught occasionally kissing Santa Claus.
But she was really dreaming about the Krampus.
Oh. All right.
Had to be said. Yuletide trolls and elves. Ranging from helpful to mischievous, elves and trolls are regular visitors in many homes during the holiday season. In Iceland, Scandinavia, and Denmark, stories of Yule elves and trolls are most prevalent and are homes to some of the most fascinating and frightening of all holiday gift givers. Iceland is home to the 13 Yule lads, Jólasveinir in Icelandic, sons of the ancient figures Ovilus Gryla and Lapaludi, are mentioned in the Prose Edda, a collection of Old Norse mythology first written down in the 13th century. In folklore, Gryla is known to make a stew of naughty children.
Oh no.
Where's the salt and pepper?
Yum.
She also has a black cat that eats any child who doesn't receive new clothing on Christmas Eve.
Wow. The 13 Yule lads are Gryla's children, far more forgiving and gift givers in the days leading up to Christmas, and will make their judgments daily. The good children will be rewarded with small presents and candy, while the bad ones will receive a potato. They are known to be tricksters, but certainly not looking to eat anyone. Gryla. The Danish Nessie, in Danish, which translates to goblin, or Tomate in Swedish, are ancient nature spirits and are known gift givers and pranksters. The Nessie or Tomate generally watch over farms and are said to reward farmers who honor them who honor them with offerings and punish those who neglect them. Depending on the temperament of that individual Nessie or Tomate, there are many, and you may not be visited by the same one. They are said to be a form of ancestor worship, or seen as a member of the Fae, or created from the fairyland. The Tomate or Nessie generally resemble garden gnomes in present day.
The Christmas tree. Evergreen trees, wreaths, and branches have long been associated with the Roman times of Saturnalia. A 1st century Roman mosaic from Tunisia in North Africa features a joyous Dionysius entering the town with a full-grown evergreen tree.
Oh.
This image has been used as evidence to suggest that the Romans might also have celebrated the Saturnalia season with a full-grown tree instead of simple branches. Many historians give the Christian reformer Martin Luther credit for decorating the first Christmas tree. Now, Luther's tree would have been decorated, which would have been much like the ones many of us have in our homes today, though far more dangerous, as Christmas trees were often decorated and lit with candles.
Wow, that's a fire hazard.
Yeah. The first set of electric Christmas lights was created in 1882, but electric lights didn't really catch on until the 1910s, when mass produced and obviously made more affordable.
Makes sense.
Christmas during the medieval times plays feature a paradise tree, which was typically an evergreen tree of some sort, decorated with apples, representing the forbidden fruit, told to Adam and Eve's story along with communion wafers. The tale of Adam and Eve's original story events had happened December 24th.
With the paradise tree already set up in the churches and castles of the medieval nobility, it's not hard to imagine that the tree turned into a symbol of Christmas the following morning. An older and still Christian explanation for the Christmas tree also comes from Germany and involves the 18th century St. Boniface. Christmas Eve, Boniface races into a pagan German village where a small child was due for sacrifice to the god Thor. Near a large oak tree called the Thunder Oak, dedicated to Thor. The Thunder Oak was apparently quite large, but Boniface was said to have just chopped it down in just 1 or 2 strokes of his axe. After the tree fell to the ground, Boniface pointed to the small evergreen tree near the thunder tree and proceeded to tell the astounded pagans that the evergreen tree represented the immortal life promised by Jesus. The story of Boniface was held to believe that some ancient Celtic druids had something to do with the invention of the Christmas tree.
Now, by the medieval times, the Christmas pyramids were created and were 4 to 8-sided platforms containing evergreen branches, fruit, biblical scenes, gifts, and with candles on top, and were traditionally hung from the ceiling. Originally, they were used at a variety of holidays, such as midsummer, summer solstice, but eventually they became associated with only Christmas. Today, Christmas pyramids resemble a carousel with several different levels and are most often decorated with scenes of the Nativity. The Yule log. The Yule log of today takes several different forms. It is a ceremonial log of wood that's used either as a piece of decor or for a fire. A lot of times, it is a slab of wood adorned with holiday decorations, with spaces drilled into it for some tea light candles. For centuries, the Yule log was one of the centerpieces of Christmas and Yule celebrations. The first recorded reference to the Yule log dates all the way back to 1184 in Germany.
Wow.
And it's likely that the Yule log is a far older custom than that. The Yule log spread throughout Europe and was firmly established in England by the early 1600s, when it was first shown in written record. Shortly thereafter, the custom reached North America, and it's been a part of Western holiday traditions ever since. Yule logs traditions vary across Europe and the Americas, but for centuries finding a suitable Yule log was an extremely important activity. Who knew? In England, we did. The Christmas Day Yule log was selected on the holidays of Candlemas, February 2nd, and then set out to dry until its use, 11 months later.
Wow, that's some time.
In other parts of Europe, families would wake up with the sun and seek a Yule log in the early morning hours on Christmas Eve. In Norway, it was customary for the male head of the household to find the Yule log on his own. Simply dragging the Yule log home was a cause for celebration.
Especially if you have a child riding on it.
Yeah. Yule logs were decorated with ribbons as they were dragged home in the snow to mud and small children were sometimes permitted to ride on top of the Yule log as others labored. Once inside, to home the Yule log often had been ceremonially placed on fire. Often that means dousing the log with wine or grain for health and prosperity in the coming new year, while a prayer or blessing was spoken.
She getting tipsy.
For this reason, on certain American plantations during the pre-Civil War South, slaves were free from work for as long as the Yule log burned. For this reason, the log was often heavily sprinkled with water so it would burn longer. In many households, it was customary to kindle that year's Yule log with the ashes of remnants of the previous year's log. Ashes thrown into a hearth were believed to drive off life-threatening storms and protect against bad weather.
Let's get some holly and jolly going. Holly grows both in bush and tree and has been popular at winter celebrations for a millennia. It was used by Romans at Saturnalia before being adopted by Christians as decoration for Christmas. There are several species of holly, with all retaining their green leaves and red berries in the winter. If you've pricked your finger while handling a holly bush, you're familiar with the most common type. In Celtic Gaul, a sprig of holly would be worn on one's person or fashioned into a crown. It was thought to keep malicious spirits away, or just bad entities in general. In England, holly was seen as a deterrent against malevolent demons and witches, and was often tied to bedposts for protection. Holly can add a little extra protective magic to your home or work and protect against bad fires, bad weather, and even the evil eye. Good one to keep in your pocket then. Burning holly on Burning holly on Christmas is said to be resulting in pleasant dreams and a healthier new year. Holly is also used for divination because there are many types of holly. The first variety brought into the home into one's home can be used to predict who in the household will have the most luck in the coming year. I wonder which one we brought this year. The softer smooth leaves holly are thought to be female, and if they make their way into the home first at Yuletide, the lady of the house will be blessed. Oh. The dangerous sharp hollies, generally thought of as male, when their arrival is presented first, usually will benefit the men of the house. And let's get some mistletoe. Kissing time! Mistletoe has been around since 40 BCE. Roman historians Pliny the Elder confirmed that Druids of Gaul had found it upon an oak tree and was deemed sacred. If mistletoe was found growing from an oak tree, it was a rarity. The Druids would dress in white cloaks and use golden sickles to cut the mistletoe down, then put it in a white sheet, which later would be brought to a sacrifice, usually of 2 bulls, which would be made into a big meal to celebrate the collecting of the mistletoe. Sounds like a jolly time. Druids and everyone think that this plant to be holy and healing and to bring good health, but in reality is poisonous, can die, but has been used in Europe folk medicine for hundreds of years. In Norse mythology, mistletoe is actually completely the opposite of what Druids believe. It is a killer. The goddess Frigg had made a pledge from everything living to not harm her son, Baldur, but neglecting to take the harmless mistletoe plant into account. So, the trickster god, Loki, gained access to this knowledge, then fashioned a dart out of the mistletoe. Then, guess what he did? He convinced a blind god to throw it at her son. Tell me about it. Whew. Okay. This bush is decorated with evergreen branches, holly fruit, and of course, mistletoe. Eventually, other decorations began to fall away. The other decorations began to fall away. And all that was left was the mistletoe. Christians have claimed that the ancient Celtics saw the mistletoe as a symbol of peace. It was likely used by Romans during Saturnalia, as well in December. It was fairly common way back. Christians would hang mistletoe and have an embedded nativity scene within it, and they would hang them from the ceilings. If you ever wondered where they came from and why we hang them up, now you know. Over time, the nativity scenes were removed from them, and thus how our kissing plant came to be hanging over our doorways. For modern pagans, mistletoe at Yuletide, it represents rebirth and nature's promise of renewal. The red and white berries symbolize menstrual blood and semen, and the green leaves represent all the life soon to be reborn in the spring. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little story that we got to tell you about history of Yule and just other things that were going on in general.
Christmas related.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed it.